My mind is like, oh, you've done this every day for the last 7 years. Can we have one day off? And I'm like, nope, bang. And that's it. I never, it's this stuff that I don't feel like it. It's not a sadistic thing. It's me just taking control, and just that helps with the regulation side of things, because if I'm more in tune with physical discomfort, like workouts or fighting, jiu-jitsu, or cold.
I've been really interested in your content. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the information that you put out primarily on Instagram is where I see what you do.
Yeah.
Has maybe changed the tone a little bit more into the realm of masculinity. Is that accurate?
I think I think it's becoming more prominent, right, is what it is. I think maybe it was a little hidden, but it's always, I suppose it's been there. I think it's just a little bit more prominent now, and apparent in the majority of posts that I'm putting out, which is being received well. I think it's, again, refining the work that I'm doing, always learning, always trying to evolve, and I suppose distill down and dial into the clients that I can help the most, really. So right. I think it's just it's a natural, I call it a progression, but it's more, I suppose, an iteration and a refinement of me. But yeah, you are very astute.
If it's as overt as you're saying, I don't know if it's just being astute or just seeing that, and also probably has to do with the fact that I am in this space as well, and the work around men and masculinity is so important. Do you think, when you said it's becoming more apparent, you meant that in your post itself, but do you think the concepts of masculinity and manliness how do you feel about the way that we culturally and societally embrace masculinity and manliness?
Yeah. I think part of me does what I do because of concerns with my son and him growing up in the current climate, and I have concerns, and I see those concerns in the guys that message me. And the beauty of having a large following is a lot of data. And people don't really see it that way. They go, it's missed. But I just get a lot of data come through in the form of messages and conversation. It's just, guys are sharing a lot as well in private DMs. And it's consistent, the concerns, and I'm like, okay, I'm picking that up, and you're just reaffirming, what my concerns are with it. And I think there's a lot of confusion. I think there is. What doesn't help is you've got guys out there that are advocating for this almost toxic masculinity. Almost comes across. It seems to be combative, almost a reaction to, I suppose, toxic feminism. Dare I call it that? I dare. And there's this response from some guys out there, and it doesn't seem to be very well thought out. It seems to be not really a response, more reaction. And I think there's a lot of confusion. I think there's I'm not going to say pandemic, but it's almost that with my belief that there's absence of strong male role models, and that's affecting masculinity, like men are being raised by women with a female perspective of masculinity, and I think there's a little bit of loss of confusion, and I suppose that's why I didn't. Yeah, I think I adopted the stance of like, well, I don't see anyone else, not including yourself. But I thought, well, I couldn't either moan about it or I can do something about it and try and help people, because it was the case for me. That was very much the case. So I had to figure a lot of this stuff out for myself, and there was a lot of confusion, a lot of struggle and suffering along the way. But then I thought, actually, this is actually worth sharing, and I'm glad that people get value from what I'm doing, and enjoy, I suppose, informing or passing on information of things that I've encountered, struggled with, and overcome.
Yeah, it seems like it really does resonate. And when you were saying the reaction that some of these men have, I tend to look at it as an overcorrection, where maybe men have been so passive for so long that instead of moving into a healthier version of assertiveness and using their male characteristics, they've overcorrected, overcompensated. And it's got to this place where a lot of what you see online is angry rhetoric towards the opposite sex rather than a sort of collaborative effort with women that were different but can work together in harmony.
Yes. I think there's that dualism that we need to transcend, and we need each other. This literally the survival of the species depends on it. So this combative, competitive approach is detrimental and holds us back. It doesn't need to be that hard, but I think, it is not well thought out, and just I think you're spot on. It is a reactionary thing, and it's almost like a pushback. How did you word it?
I said overcorrection. Is what I said.
Yeah, I like that. It is. It is like overcorrection, over-responsive. It's like trying to, level up or whatever, suppress. But I don't think it's not healthy.
Do you feel like when you get the messages that you receive, and like you said, you have a lot of data on that, what are some of the things that you see as common issues, common concerns that the men who are reaching out to you are facing?
I think it is definitely the relationship side of things, and concerns and confusion over maybe vulnerability and emotionalism, and there's this, I suppose, these confusion over why this is happening, these dynamics in relationships, be it like insecure attachment types or codependencies, where both people are pulling at each other and they're both unraveling themselves in the process. And I think a lot of it is that it's guys, it's confusion, an unwillingness to be vulnerable, which is I see it as different to emotional. Like, if you've had a safe, secure upbringing, and you've had a strong male role model who is regulated, who is who has worked on himself and is, dare I say, in his masculine, then you're going to be fine. As a guy, you're pretty set. But it's the guys that are struggling, that that didn't have that, maybe were in environments where they saw quite a toxic, a poor relationship sort of modeled to them, where there was dysregulation, dysfunction. So it's that struggle that I see with a lot of the guys, the confusion, and maybe a struggle with the relationship aspect. I know that was the case for me. It was a lot of confusion, a lot of struggles. It took a long time to figure this stuff out as to why they're struggling. It's coming through. I'm just seeing the same things occurring where guys can't. Maybe they're misjudging self-respect and disrespect, shit tests, things like that. Maybe conflict or fear of isolation. A lot of these fears are leading to poor behavior and struggles in relationship. I think a lot of the guys out there who fall into that category become these nice guys who just get, not walked over in relationships, but there's very much, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? A frustration or a resentment from the female in the relationship, where they're looking for guys to lead. And this is not by force or control, it's just, being aligned or having a purpose or a passion that you're working on. And that can be hard for a lot of guys, because there's a lot of distraction out there, and they may not be engaging in what they really want to do. So there's a frustration in them, which leads to the frustration in the other half, but then there's this fear about conflict in the relationship. And most of the guys I work with, they see it as the end. It's like a finality. So they avoid it at all costs. They don't want to have that conflict, terrified of it. And they're great business-wise and they can compete. It's almost like a subtle, imperceptible competition that they do, as opposed to a direct, open, overt competition. They're very much, I've noticed, like a fear around any conflict, having discussion that might bring up an emotional charge, like a situation with their spouse, because they can't handle it. They don't like it because they're not regulated in that sense. So it always leads to them getting out of control. So they avoid it. Then there's that resentment in them. They think that conflict means the end, and they will, I suppose some of them, I've noticed, don't put up boundaries. They are very much, just accept that poor behavior and tolerate disrespect in the relationship. And for me, that's when the female part of the relationship, that's when they lose respect for the male in the relationship. So I think it's it's a myriad of things that lead to this degradation of masculinity, and I think that's what a lot of the guys struggle with, especially the ones that I speak with. And it's almost like being eroded because there's so much, I suppose, distraction, a lot of comfort out there. And when guys are choosing that and they're distracted from maybe a purpose or a passion that they want to pursue, it's kind of like, well, now all I want is, the focus is, instead of pursuing that themselves, the focus is on, I need to have a relationship. It's on women or whatever it is. It just turns to that. And I'm very much an advocate of, you should have this goal, this clear, here's me making this phallic shape. So we're just very much this clear decisiveness with these masculine traits, and I think that's what attracts femininity. If you are in your masculine, and if you're going towards that thing, and you're being decisive, and you are leading, that attracts that's going to be fine. You'll be fine. When it comes to the relationship side of that will take care of itself. But it's when those traits are being eroded, and you almost get it's the passive aggressive guy, the downtrodden guy. They're the ones that are struggling, and what they're doing is attracting masculinity. They're attracting sort of women. So they're failing. I don't really know if is shit test the right word, but yeah, these tests that women are just sort of gauging them on suitability for as a partner, as a spouse, etc. Antiquated. It's not just a new thing. It's not a trend. Women have been doing this for eons to test out a guy's suitability as partner. How much they can trust him. How much they're pushing. Are they going to let him know? Are they sort of respecting? And guys are just continually failing these tests and frustrated that they have to do these tests. And I'm like, well, it's part and parcel, really. The world is round. It's just the way it is.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that a woman who's looking for a partner would vet who that partner is. And I think men should do it too. Excuse me, men should do it too. Maybe we do that in a different way, but I think all too often men are so anxious to be attached to a woman that they don't really set the boundaries like you talked about, and they don't communicate expectations, and they don't lead because they're so desperate rather than truly trying to find somebody that is compatible with them.
Yeah, I think the guys can pass the test. That's do you know what I mean? You were saying that you think guys can do it for women. Yeah, we need to be vigilant, and we need to assess, and we're like, well, okay, well, does what they're saying align with what they're doing? That, for me, is like the main thing. She's saying this, but I'm seeing this. And if there's not this correlation, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not integrity. I can't trust this person. I think that's crossover from male, female. But for me, we don't have to do much. Us passing that test is that's it for us once we've passed that test. But we have to be present for that test, because if we're not there, that falls into the realm of disrespect for me. It's an evolutionary thing that women are doing, like in front of you, testing you as you're there. If they're doing it behind your back, that's disrespect, and that's a whole different category for me. So
I think the guys that are worried about the tests are the ones who probably can't pass the test, and it's like they're upset about it. It's like, it's like the kid who shows up to school and there's a pop quiz they didn't know about, and they're not prepared, and so they're stressed out, freaked out, and acting wild about it. Versus, I think what you're saying is emotional regulation, getting right with yourself, having purpose. If you have those things in place and you're doing it properly, I don't even know that you'll acknowledge what she's doing as a test, because it's just not as relevant to you. Yeah. And it shouldn't be relevant. It's just you.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. I think you've got nothing to worry about. You're like, fine, okay, well, where do I sit? Give me the test paper. I'm ready to go. If it is that test. But it's like a natural thing. And guys that are getting, the knickers in a twist about having to do this, sort of women doing that. I'm like, well, that's an evolutionary thing for them to sort of, let's say, suss out your suitability as a mate. I'm like, well, it's just the way it goes. But if you're not that way inclined, of course you're gonna, you won't like it, because you're not, sort of eligible in there, and you haven't got your, can I swear?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
You haven't got your shit together. And so, yes, women will suss that out. they'll weed that out. And I think if you've got your shit together, then you're in a good place. And it's rare though. What I'm saying is it's rare, because a lot of the guys just don't have that regulation and that trust, and they struggle with that. And there's a difference between fault and responsibility. It may not be your fault that you weren't shown this stuff. It wasn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something about it if you want to improve the quality of your life, if you want the relationship that you've been craving. And you wouldn't necessarily crave it. It's just like it will come as a byproduct of you focusing on your self, ultimately improving that in all these domains of your life, working on those things. And I don't see it as like a completion. I think if you've got a good thing going on and you're happy by yourself, if you're comfortable in with your own life, what you've got going on, then I think you don't really have to look. Like the right person will come along, but it's a case of you've got to be the right person to attract the right person.
Right.
I'm very conscious that we're skewing this towards like a relationship thing, but yeah, that's my concerns with the masculinity side of things. Like the guy's trying to be this alpha male, the alpha male or what have you. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the guy that actually came up with that alpha male thing re-corrected himself and said, it's
really?
Not the case. Yeah. So people who are trying to, be this like the alpha male, and I'm like, that's the problem. It's not just one. It can be many alpha males. You just have to show up for yourself. You can still be an alpha male. You can be a leader. I don't even really like that term, but but it seems to be bandied around a lot, and there's a lot of confusion around that. And you just have to, because that leads into a comparison thing. We're going like sort of against each other, and you miss the point. For me, that's missing the point. Your focus should be on yourself and what you're doing. I often joke with people that our eyes are on the wrong way around. We're always projecting and looking out, like, oh, what have they got? What have they got? What are they doing in this? And I'm like, you're missing a whole. Look at your own. So there's a lot of distraction out there, and if you can dial it in and focus on what you're doing, it's going to be a lot better for you.
So with men who have maybe some of these insecurity issues, disrespect, lack of self-respect, that nice guy term that you had talked about, where do you suggest a man like this start? Because you say, focus on yourself, work on yourself, have a mission. And I agree with that, but what in practicality would that look like?
Yeah, that's it. It's coming down to it, it's like this. The simplest version would be just concentrating on just take it one day at a time. It's what are you doing in your private life that doesn't align with your public? That's a big thing for me. When you get those things, when you get that's integrity. You're showing up for yourself when no one's watching. Like, whatever it could be. It could be, workouts. It could be cold showering. It could be some journaling. It could be working on this project that you've got in mind, and not needing to tell everyone about it. It's in private. Do you like that person, or is there a disconnect between the persona the facade that does it feel like a facade, like the person that's in public? And is there a difference? I get this when people tell me that, just like, oh, I'm just drained by when I'm out in public and meeting people in social gatherings. I'm like, it's because you're putting on a performance. You're like an actor going backstage and taking off all their costume and just going, whew, exhausted, because you're putting on this performance, because there's such a difference. There's a discrepancy, dissonance between this public person and this private person. When you start doing things to align them, that's when you're going to see a lot of change and a lot more, I suppose, happy. There's going to be more happiness in your life. You're going to feel more confident. Your self-worth and esteem is going to go up because you can trust yourself more. And again, it's just keeping these commitments that you made to yourself, and just to distill them further down, those commitments are going to require you to do some uncomfortable stuff when it comes to the time, not how you feel. I think that's a big problem that most people face with procrastination, because it's uncomfortable at the time. And for me, I'm a big believer. You do it when it's time, not when you're in the mood. I've got this £35 Casio watch that's been with me for a little while now, and I just do everything on that. And when this tells the time in accordance with my routine and calendar, that's when I do it. But it will require you to hit these, what's the term someone used? Choice points. You hit these points in your day when it's time to take action on things. And you do it when it's time, not how you feel about it. Your mood should not determine the action. It's like, okay, it's time to do this. And that's some way for you to shore up and to let's say, close the gap between this public and private person, to align those two. And you're going to feel a bit more secure in yourself. You're going to feel a bit more confident. And you're going to start taking action on things. And then you are going to pursue opportunities. But that would be my first port of call for guys, and the guys that I work with. I'm like, okay, well, let's just establish some form of routine. Something in your day that's going to add a little bit of discomfort to help you to match those two up, to align, to get in touch with your, self-trust, and bring that. And I hear it all the time. The pushback is like, yeah, but it's easier said than done, or it's hard. I'm like, that's the whole point.
Of course.
That's the whole point. You're missing it. You're missing the point. You doing it because it's hard is the point. It's not the thing. It's the feeling. You're taking charge of that. 6:44. I don't feel like turning my shower to cold. My mind is like, oh, you've done this every day for the last 7 years. Can we have one day off? And I'm like, nope, bang. And that's it. I never, it's this stuff that I don't feel like it. It's not a sadistic thing. It's me just taking control, and just that helps with the regulation side of things, because if I'm more in tune with physical discomfort, like workouts or fighting, like jiu-jitsu, or cold, spending time in silence. If I'm okay with, actually not those, not the time in silence, that's more of an emotional, but it's the physical practices. If I'm comfortable with them, then my mind doesn't know the difference between the physical and the emotional pain. It's just pain. So if I can start with these, like physical thing, the emotional is downstream. So when it comes to that thing that's, going to be emotionally uncomfortable, I'm going to be more willing, let's say, to experience that, because I can do this pain, so I can experience that pain. And your mind's just like, well, it's just pain. I'm like, okay, well, I've turned my willingness to experience that up, that dial. I'm just turning it up a little bit. So when it comes to that boring thing or that uncomfortable conversation, I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing this stuff here, and that's going to make me more tolerant, more willing of this uncomfortable thing that I'm doing here, be it like an emotional thing, whatever it is, conflict with your spouse, communicating a boundary. But yeah, that's where I would start, right, from that, and maybe having a look at your value system, having a look at, see if is it extrinsic? Is it to do with these rewards, these sort of riches and all of that, these external things, or is it more to do with, let's say, you and your values being more intrinsic? Like, what do you look for? Like respect or like relationships and good this, not like the possession side of things, like the personal values, right? In internal values, what it means to you, because that's all that people are going to remember you by anyway. No one is there reading out your eulogy or your epitaph going, oh, he net worth was blah, 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 blah. He had these cars, he had this corner office, blah, 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 blah. No one reads that out. No one reads that out. They tell you what type of man you were. They say, oh, he was this guy. He was this. And these are all those values. So I'm like, if you can have a look at those and have a look at these areas of your life that, all areas, and see if they're aligned with those values. Now imagine someone's reading out your epitaph. What would you like them to say about you? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start with all these things, start moving towards those values. I'm good with my career, with my relationships, with all those things. Are my value? Am I acting in accordance with them? Goals are like a milestone, I'll call them, or a derivative of those values. And, they give us some direction, but they are, the values are at the crux of it. They're the foundation. So if you can start acting in line with those values, more internal, intrinsic, I should say, then that's a good way to go about it as well. I think. Have I answered your question?
I think, I think so. I also, the way I feel about these intrinsic or internal values versus the external rewards is that the external is a manifestation of how you feel inside and then the work that you do, not the other way around. So I think you're much more likely to, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with having a desire for physical possessions or wealth and prosperity, but it's the values and the integrity that are going to produce those results, not the other way around. Like having a fancy car isn't going to make you isn't going to develop your character.
No.
But developing character could lead to better behavior, better actions, adding more value to people's lives, getting compensated for it, and then buying a car.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it. It's the value you bring as a person will be rewarded. You doing it to buy things, possessions, to look a certain way or present a persona or something. I think that's that's the road to ruin. You're going to be very unhappy, like acquiring these things. It's just like a hollowness. And I'm thinking, if you need those possessions, and all they are is like I suppose like a validation or a fix. It's like, oh, I bought this, and I feel good for a minute, and then that subsides, and it's back to baseline, and it's just another thing that you probably get bored of. But for me, I resonate and with what you're saying. It's very much like that internal stuff going on, and that just what you put out there, you get back. And I don't think people even do it to get stuff back. They're doing it because they love doing that thing, and the value that they produce is just part of their. That's it. That thing, their contribution. If you're contributing, you're adding value. If you're contributing to the species, like look to the ant. It's like if you're contributing, then the contributions that you're making are going to be rewarded. But you're not doing it for the reward. You're doing it for the intrinsic sort of let's say part of you that wants to contribute, that wants to help. You're that way because you are viewing it that way. It's It's your take on it. That's how your perception, it's your belief. It's how you see the world. If you're angry, you're going to see like an angry world. If you're if you're insecure, then you're going to see people. You're going to take a lot of things personally. If you struggle with commitment, and if you struggle with loyalty and fidelity, you're going to see that. You're going to, everyone's cheating, and that's your perception because it's yours. And I think that perception, that internal state, how you are there, that's what's affecting your worldview. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. You change yourself to change your world. Your mapping becomes the territory, so to speak. Yeah,
that makes sense. I also like that you were talking about starting with the physical. And I think that applies not exclusively, but I think that applies generally to men. Going into the gym, doing a cold plunge like you talked about. I think the common verbiage is for men to act more like women. So maybe it's not work in the physical realm first, but it's work in the relational realm. And that's why, you see like therapists and why men need to sit and talk about their problems. And while sure, maybe to some degree, there's also some validity in doing it like a man, which is going to punch each other in the ring or going to run up a mountain or go to the gym. But that's not the common narrative that we hear, it seems.
Yeah, I suppose, I think both have their merits.
Sure.
And I'm a proponent, advocate of both. I'm just like, if you start there, if you can do both simultaneously, great. If you can help, if someone can just ask you a question, and it's not so much like, it's not, sitting on the couch and ruminating, each week to your problems, and someone just challenging you and saying, look, I'm not your rescue boat. I'm just a lighthouse here, just asking you some, pointing out some stuff. I'm going to challenge you. You're here, you say you want to resolve this. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you some uncomfortable questions. I'm going to ask you, what is causing this blockage, this discrepancy between the man that you want to be and who you currently are? Where's that dissonance? Like, what's blocking that? And you're just like, okay, it's usually like a suppression thing, guys. They'll present this persona, but I suppose to take a young, a concept on it, there's this shadow side, there's this dark, sort of things that we push down, that we don't think is acceptable, that we think we're going to be judged for. And if we can align those two through talking to someone and them asking the right questions and removing these blockers, great. But there needs to be like a physical, a somatic involvement there as well. I don't think just one way or the other is a bit, you're hitting and hoping, really. I don't think that seldom works from what I've personally seen. But there needs to be some integration, starting off with that physical discomfort and integrating the two. That's great. There needs to be a combination of both. That's a good place to start with the physical, because you engaging and turning that dial of willingness to experience pain up will make you more open and willing to experience the emotional side of things, those feelings. It's probably just a suppression. It's usually just a suppression of things. Guys have just sort of pushed something down. There's something that's a memory, maybe they have not, some engram that's producing a motive charge, if they were to remember it, and they don't want that discomfort. And I'm just like, look, you just process that. You're going to remove a lot of this blockage. This, sort of, you constantly suppressing this stuff is really the problem. It takes a lot of energy. And I'm just like, if you just look at that, if you're willing to do that. If you're starting off with this physical discomfort and doing these things here, then you're more likely to just open the door and just go, oh, okay, can I look with it? And this is not about like sort of, crying and crying and crying about things. I'm just like, it'll probably, there will be like some sort of emotional release where you take out that charge from that thing and you'll think, okay, that doesn't feel so heavy. There's a bit of weight lifted. And my analogy I use with some of the guys that I work with, it's like this closet full of baggage. Everyone knows the term baggage. You've got this closet full of baggage, and there's all these bags in there. Occasionally one falls out, and instead of distracting yourself, I'm just like, just open that up, look inside at the content of that, instead of like sort of spending all this energy like trying to hold the door shut, and just like let one come out. Open up the content. Don't try and change the content. Just be with that. Examine it. Like, let yourself feel what's in there. And then discard it. And there might be a few more bags in there. Great. But you're working that pile down. Like, that baggage in there is declining. And you're going to be more freer. You haven't got this, let's say, sort of suppression thing. You'll have more energy. And that is, for me, the starting point. If you're starting off with that physical side, and engaging in that discomfort, you're going to be more willing to that. And it's just a combination of the two that's going to help you with everything. I mean, I had loads of those bags in there. And when you do, it's just like the weight comes off and you're just like, wow, that was blocking me for so long. Why did I not just look at them before? I don't know, just not sort of, some guys are afraid to open that or open one of those bags and looking just to go, oh, okay. And I'm just inviting them to do that, to look at that. And that suppression, that just closes up that gap between that public persona and what's, sort of been pushed down into this shadow side, this darkness. So I'm just like, if you could look at that, if you're willing, because that takes a bit of courage. I think there's confusion out there, there's false confidence or fake it till you make it. And most guys are like, you should be confident. I'm like, well, confidence is a competence thing. It's just that you're not going to have that to start off with. You're not going to have any evidence.
You're not entitled to it.
No, you haven't got any confidence. You need courage when you're starting off, because confidence is knowing you can do this and having evidence. You have no evidence when you start doing these new things. You have to build evidence. And then when you get that evidence, then the confidence comes with it. So telling people to just be confident or telling people that you shouldn't feel afraid, I'm like, well, there is no courage without fear. And you have to be willing to take these steps and just start doing this stuff. Like some practice, a little thing, and you being more regulated, that's basically, that's a foundation of masculinity for me, like a regulated, otherwise you're a boy, you're a man-child. If someone is, let's say, saying words to you and you're getting hurt and irate, they're controlling you. You're just, you're a man-child. You're might hurt some of the people listening to this, but if someone is saying words to you and you are, let's say, triggered by that, that's a good thing, because you can look at that and just go, why is that triggering me? Or what did I relate to in that sentence that they've said to me? Why is that? Why am I taking that personally? Go through my comments section, I get that a lot of hate. And DMs, people take the time to make me videos telling me, and that, and you're just like, wow, you really put some effort into that. And I'm just like, but I'm just like, I don't relate to that. I'm not angry because I don't relate to what you're saying. I don't have any, I know why you're trying to do that. It's usually from a position of hurt, or you're feeling something, but you recognizing that's your feeling and you being able to regulate that, it's part of one of those shit tests that women do. It's just that's what they're doing. They're just trying to gauge, like, can you take this? How regulated are you? How mature are you? There's immaturity, and then there's maturity. Maturity is just you being an emotionally regulated human being. That's masculinity. If they're doing this shit test to see how you respond to that. If it's like an emotional sort of reaction, and like you're sort of grabbing her and all that, and she's going to be like, oh, okay, well, clearly this isn't the guy for me. Well, you'd hope she'd say that unless she's got some issues herself. But I'm just saying that, that is the essence of it. You being emotionally regulated and dealing with those. That's masculinity to me, to be able to deal with that, to have that regulation, to have that drive, to have that clarity, conflict, all of those things that people shy away from. We're living in a world where it's just there's an acceptance of comfort and not doing something because it's hard. It's just like, oh, I'm not doing it because I don't feel. And people are like, okay, well, you're screwed. If that's it. If you're going, oh, I'm not going to do it because I didn't feel like it. I say, I hear it in locker rooms. No, I didn't feel like it. I'm like, well, yeah, that's going to be a tough ride for you if that's your MO. That I'm not doing it because I didn't feel like it. But everyone's so accepting of it. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. And I'm just like, oh dear, yeah, I don't see you doing too well with that. That MO. Yeah. I'm rambling.
No, it's good. I want to be respectful of your time because you said you had a hard stop, and so
good
I
for
wanted
it.
to tell you.
I've got another 5 minutes if you want to fire off another question, or if you're.
Well, I'm just curious at this point where the guys can learn to connect with you, learn more about the work you're doing, and follow along with some of the content that I really love that you put out.
Well, thank you. Sure. So I suppose the best experience is on Instagram. It's just Andrew Shaw BSc. And yeah, I'm on this. I think I'm on most of social, like YouTube. I'm even on TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. I have to get someone, but I'm on there, and yeah, that's a hoot. Yeah, Andrew Shaw BSc. I think it's the same tagline handle. That's the word, handle for each social platform. But yeah, Instagram's where you'll get the best experience. I'm most active on there, just because I don't like some of the other platforms.
Well, we'll send everybody there. Andrew, I really appreciate your time with me today, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's been insightful, and it's helped me realize some of my own thoughts and work through some of my own things as well. So I'm very grateful for you.
Thank you. Pleasure. Enjoyed it. Thank you so much.